The WNIMD, the Council Chamber, the obsidian towers of the stellar collective, rose above the planet, theron like black needles piercing the violet sky. Inside the largest tower, the War Council gathered in their ceremonial chamber. The room was circular, with walls that shimmered like liquid mercury. 50 chairs floated in a perfect circle, each occupied by a military commander from a different conquered world. They had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years, and they had never known defeat. General Krax Volrin entered the chamber with heavy steps. He was a Theronian, tall and broad, with gray skin that looked like stone, and eyes that glowed faint orange in the dim light. 4 arms hung at his sides, 2 natural and 2 mechanical replacements from old battles. Scars covered his face like a map of every war he had survived. He had served the collective for 60 years, longer than most species lived. He had conquered 12 worlds and crushed 20 rebellions. The other commanders respected him, but today they would not listen to him. Supreme Commander Yalvex sat in the highest chair. She was ancient, her skin pale blue and thin like paper. Her species lived for centuries, and she had seen the collective grow from a small alliance into an empire that controlled half the known galaxy. She looked down at Krax with eyes that had forgotten how to fear anything. "General Volrin," she said, her voice soft but carrying easily through the chamber. "You requested this emergency session. Speak." Krax moved to the center of the circle. A holographic display appeared above him, showing a small blue planet rotating slowly. "This is Earth," he began. "A world on the outer edge of the Sagittarius Arm. The High Census Bureau has classified it as a primitive civilization, suitable for annexation under Protocol 7. "We know this already," interrupted Commander Draxus, "a reptilian creature with silver scales. The planet has resources we need. Their technology is centuries behind ours. This should be a simple operation. Why have you called us here?" Krax's hands clenched into fists. "Because I have been there. 6 months ago, I led a covert observation team to Earth. We studied them. We watched them. And what I saw convinced me that annexing this world would be the greatest mistake in the collective's history." Silence fell over the chamber. Several commanders leaned forward in their chairs. Yalvex raised one thin hand. "Explain yourself, General. You have never been cautious before." The observation Mission Krax activated the holographic display. Images began to appear above him, showing scenes from Earth. Cities filled with millions of humans. Vast oceans. Mountains and deserts. The beings who live on this planet call themselves humans. They are bipedal, carbon-based, and physically weak compared to most species we have encountered. They have only recently achieved spaceflight. Their fastest ships would take years to reach their nearest neighboring star. By every measure we use, they should be insignificant. Then why are we wasting time discussing them? Asked Commander Thule, whose species resembled giant insects. Because, Krax said slowly, their physical weakness and technological limitations hide something far more dangerous. These humans have been at war with each other for their entire recorded history. Not occasional conflicts over resources, but constant, brutal, total warfare that has shaped every aspect of their civilization. He brought up new images. Ancient humans fighting with primitive weapons. Medieval armies clashing with swords and arrows. Modern soldiers in trenches. Cities reduced to rubble. They have been fighting for 10,000 years. They have developed thousands of different ways to kill each other. They have created weapons that can destroy their entire planet several times over. And yet, they continue to survive and adapt. Yalvex studied the images with mild interest. Many primitive species fight among themselves. This is not unusual. It is not just that they fight, Krax insisted. It is how they fight. I watched recordings of their wars. I studied their military history. In one conflict, A small island nation fought against an empire that controlled half their world. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and completely surrounded. Every logical analysis said they should surrender. Instead, they fought for 6 years. They turned their entire society into a war machine. Elderly humans and children worked in factories. They invented new weapons while their cities burned. They never surrendered. The nature of humans, Commander Draxus laughed, a hissing sound. Desperation makes any species fight harder. Once we demonstrate our superior power, they will see reason. Krax's orange eyes blazed brighter. You do not understand. I am not talking about desperation. I am talking about their fundamental nature. Let me tell you what happened during my observation mission. The hologram changed to show a human city at night. We were monitoring their military communications when an accident occurred in one of their tall buildings. A fire broke out on the 47th floor. Hundreds of humans were trapped above the flames. Their firefighting units responded within minutes. What does this have to do with military capability? Yalvex asked. Everything, Krax replied. Watch what happened next. The hologram showed human firefighters entering the burning building. These humans, these firefighters, they knew the building might collapse at any moment. They knew they might die. But they went inside anyway. They climbed stairs while fire surrounded them. They carried unconscious humans down through smoke and heat. Some of the firefighters died when floors collapsed. But they kept going back inside until every civilian was rescued. Krax paused, letting his words sink in. I have fought in 60 battles across 30 star systems. I have seen soldiers charge into certain death because they were ordered to do so. But I have never seen civilians voluntarily run into burning buildings to save strangers. This is not military training. This is something built into what they are. The warning intensifies. The hologram shifted again, showing more scenes from Earth. During my observation, I accessed their information networks. I studied their entertainment, their stories, their cultural records. Do you know what I found? Every human civilization, across every continent and every time period, tells the same types of stories. Stories about individuals who sacrifice themselves for others. Stories about heroes who fight impossible odds. Stories about never giving up, even when defeat is certain. Myths and legends, dismissed Commander Tooley. Every species has such tales. Not like this, Krax said firmly. For humans, these are not just stories. They are instructions for how to live. I watched a recording of a human sporting event where one of their athletes broke his leg during competition. He could not walk. Medical personnel tried to help him off the field, but this human refused. He crawled on his hands and knees to finish the race. Thousands of other humans watching him began to cry and cheer. They saw this as inspirational, not foolish. Asterisk Krax began pacing around the circle, his mechanical arms clicking softly. I studied their military doctrine. Every major power on Earth has developed something they call asymmetric warfare. It is the science of fighting opponents who are stronger than you. They have entire schools dedicated to teaching soldiers how to defeat superior forces. They have written thousands of books analyzing how to win when victory should be impossible. The Council's dismissal Supreme Commander Yalvex shifted in her chair. General Volrin, your observations are interesting, but they do not change the fundamental reality. We have conquered 237 worlds. We have weapons that can shatter moons. We have shields that can withstand the heat of stars. What can these primitive humans do against such power? They will adapt, Krax said quietly. That is what they do. That is all they have ever done. Their planet has tried to kill them for millions of years. Ice ages that should have wiped them out. Diseases that should have destroyed their population. Predators that were faster and stronger. Every time they adapted. Every time they survived. Every time, they became more dangerous. He turned to face Yalvex directly. I am not saying we cannot defeat them militarily. I am saying that conquering them will cost us far more than any world is worth. They will not surrender when they see our ships. They will study our weapons and find weaknesses. They will fight in ways we cannot predict. And even if we kill 90% of them, the remaining 10% will continue fighting until they find a way to hurt us. Commander Draxus stood up, his silver scales catching the light. Enough of this paranoia. The general has become soft in his old age. Perhaps his years have finally caught up with him. Other commanders murmured in agreement. Krax felt his heart sink. They were not going to listen. Yalvex raised her hand for silence. General Volrin, I respect your service to the collective, but I cannot allow fear of primitive beings to dictate our policy. The decision has been made. The Second Armada will depart for Earth in 3 days. They will offer the humans a choice. Join the collective peacefully, or be annexed by force. Like every other species before them, they will choose survival over pointless resistance. The final warning Krax stood alone in the center of the chamber, looking around at the faces of commanders who had forgotten what it meant to fight a truly dangerous enemy. You are making a terrible mistake, he said softly. These humans have a saying in one of their languages. It translates roughly as speak softly and carry a big stick. They appear weak and friendly, but they are always ready for violence, always prepared for war. Then we will crush them quickly, Yalvex declared. Admiral Zenther will command the Second Armada. 300 ships, the finest warriors from 20 different worlds. If these humans are as dangerous as you claim, we will demonstrate why the collective has ruled the galaxy for 3 millennia. Krax bowed his head. I have given my warning. When your armada returns broken and bleeding, when your warriors tell stories that sound impossible, remember this moment. Remember that I tried to tell you the truth about what humans are. Dismissed, General, Yalvex said coldly as Krax walked out of the chamber. He heard the other commanders laughing behind him. They were already discussing how to divide Earth's resources after the conquest. They talked about which continents would be mined first, which cities would become administrative centers for the collective. They spoke with the absolute confidence of predators who had never encountered anything they could not kill. Krax returned to his quarters in the lower levels of the tower. He sat in darkness, thinking about the humans he had observed. He remembered watching a human mother carry her child for hours through a dangerous wilderness to reach medical help. He remembered human students staying awake for days to complete their studies. He remembered human workers rebuilding their cities after natural disasters destroyed everything they owned. He thought about the words that appeared again and again in human culture, in dozens of their languages. Never give up. Never surrender. We will fight them on the beaches. Do not go gentle into that good night. These were not just slogans. They were declarations of what humans believed about themselves. In 3 days, the Second Armada would arrive at Earth. The humans would see 300 massive warships appear in their sky. They would receive a message demanding their immediate surrender. And then, Krax knew, the galaxy would learn what happens when you back a species that has spent 10,000 years learning how to fight impossible battles. He activated his personal communication device and sent a coded message to a few trusted officers who had served with him on the observation mission. Prepare the medical facilities. Increase production of repair materials. We will need them soon. Then General Krax Volrin sat back and waited for the galaxy to change forever. The Arisi Konai Dith. Armada arrives. Second Armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a swarm of metal locusts. 300 warships, each one larger than the biggest structure humans had ever built. Their hulls were made of alloys that could withstand the pressure of gas giants. Their weapons could vaporize asteroids. Their shields had never been penetrated in 1,000 battles across the galaxy. Admiral Zenther stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Fist. He was a Carthian, a species known for their tactical brilliance and cold efficiency. His body was covered in thick plates of natural armor, dark green and harder than steel. 3 eyes arranged in a triangle on his face allowed him to see in multiple spectrums simultaneously. He had conquered 14 worlds for the collective without losing a single ship. "Status report," he commanded, his voice deep and resonant. "All ships have arrived successfully." "Admiral," reported his tactical officer. "Scanning the system now. We are detecting primitive satellites around the third planet. Multiple space stations in low orbit. Several small vessels moving between the planet and its moon." Zenther studied the holographic display before him. Earth rotated slowly, blue and white and green. It looked peaceful, almost beautiful. "Have they detected us?" "Affirmative, Admiral. We are receiving multiple radar and radio signals from the planet. They know we are here." "Excellent. Broadcast the standard annexation message on all frequencies. Inform them they have 12 hours to surrender unconditionally or face destruction." Earth responds. The message from the Stellar Collective reached Earth simultaneously in every language humans spoke. It appeared on television screens, computer monitors, and communication devices across the planet. The words were simple and absolute. "Surrender or die." In the emergency command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Sarah Chun stood before a wall of screens showing the alien fleet. She was 52 years old, gray hair pulled back severely, face lined from 3 decades of military service. She had fought in wars on 4 continents. She had lost friends and soldiers under her command. She had seen the worst that humans could do to each other. But she had never faced anything like this. "Analysis," she said calmly, though her heart pounded in her chest. 300 vessels. "General," reported her tactical officer, "a young man named Marcus Webb. Each one outguns everything we have combined. Our nuclear weapons might damage their hulls, but intelligence suggests they have defensive systems we cannot overcome with current technology. Estimated casualties if they attack population centers?" Marcus hesitated. "If they have weapons proportional to their ship size. Billions dead in the first strike. Complete extinction within 48 hours. The room fell silent. Every person present understood the mathematics of annihilation. Earth had prepared for many scenarios. Nuclear war, climate catastrophe, asteroid impact. But humanity had never truly prepared to face a technologically superior alien civilization bent on conquest. General Chun turned to face her staff. "Get me every military leader on the planet. Every nation, every alliance, every armed force. We have 12 hours. Humanity unites. What happened in the next 12 hours would have seemed impossible just days before. Nations that had been enemies for generations began sharing military intelligence. Countries that had refused to speak to each other for decades opened communication channels. Every armed force on Earth, from the most powerful militaries to the smallest defense units, began coordinating their response. In Beijing, Moscow, Washington, London, Delhi, Tokyo, and 100 other cities. Leaders who had spent their careers planning how to fight each other now planned how to fight together. Old grudges did not disappear, but they became irrelevant in the face of extinction. General Chin found herself on a video conference with 73 other military commanders. "We cannot win a conventional engagement," she stated clearly. "They have superior technology, superior numbers, and superior firepower. If we try to fight them in space the way they expect, we will lose in minutes. Then, what do you suggest?" asked General Yuri Volkov from Russia. That we surrender? No, Chun said firmly. I suggest we fight the way humans have always fought when facing superior enemies. We adapt. We improvise. We make them pay for every meter of space they take. Over the next hours, a plan took shape. It was desperate, probably suicidal, but it was the only chance humanity had. Every space-capable vessel, whether military or civilian, would be armed with whatever weapons could be mounted. Every satellite would be reprogrammed for offensive capability. And if the aliens came close enough to Earth, the planet itself would become a weapon. They expect us to be afraid, General Chun said. They expect us to beg for mercy or surrender immediately. We are afraid. But fear has never stopped humans from fighting. The battle begins when Admiral Zenther's 12-hour deadline expired. He was surprised to receive a response from Earth. A human face appeared on his screen. A female with gray hair and cold eyes. I am General Sarah Chun of the United Earth Defense Force, the human said. We have received your demands. Here is our response. Leave our system immediately, or we will make you regret you ever found us. Zenther stared at the screen in disbelief. Then he began to laugh, a sound like grinding rocks. You dare threaten us? You, with your primitive vessels and ancient weapons? I will enjoy watching your world burn. Then come and try, General Chun said, and the transmission ended. Zenther's amusement faded. There was something in the human's eyes that reminded him of wounded predators he had seen on other worlds. Dangerous not because they were strong, but because they had nothing left to lose. He dismissed the thought. All ships, advance to Earth orbit. Destroy any vessels that resist. Prepare to bombard population centers. The Armada moved forward like a dark tide. But as they crossed into the inner system, the first surprise came. Hundreds of small human vessels suddenly appeared from behind Earth's moon, accelerating at speeds that should have torn them apart. They were not military ships. They were cargo haulers, mining vessels, passenger transports, even luxury yachts. All of them had been modified with weapons, and all of them were heading directly toward the Armada. Admiral, the humans are attacking, reported the tactical officer, confusion in his voice. But their approach makes no tactical sense. They cannot hope to damage us. Zenther watched the swarm of human ships approaching. Destroy them. All batteries, fire at will. The Armada's weapons lit up space with beams of energy and explosive projectiles. Human ships began exploding, brilliant flashes of light against the darkness. Dozens died in seconds, but the rest kept coming, not even attempting evasive maneuvers. They simply accelerated harder, pushing their engines beyond safe limits. What are they doing? Zenther muttered dot. The answer came moments later when the first human ship reached the Armada. It was a mining vessel, its hull already torn apart by weapons fire, atmosphere venting from multiple breaches. It should have broken apart or retreated. Instead, it rammed directly into a collective destroyer at full speed. The explosion was massive. The mining ship's reactor overloaded on impact, creating a blast that overwhelmed the destroyer's shields and tore through its hull. Both vessels were destroyed instantly. Shields holding on all ships, reported the tactical officer. But his voice carried a note of uncertainty. Admiral, the humans are using their ships as weapons. They are deliberately ramming us. Zenther watched in growing horror as more human vessels crashed into his fleet. Each impact destroyed the human ship, but the cumulative damage was beginning to show. Shields were failing. Hulls were breaching. His perfect formation was becoming chaos, not the cost of victory on Earth. General Chun watched the battle through satellite feeds, her face expressionless, even as tears ran down her cheeks. Each explosion represented hundreds of human lives. Volunteers who had known they would not survive, but chose to fight anyway. Captain Rodriguez of the orbital tug Santiago reports shields failed and life support failing, Marcus Webb said quietly. Reading casualty reports. She is requesting permission to ram the nearest enemy vessel. Granted, Sean said, her voice barely a whisper. God be with her. In space, Captain Maria Rodriguez adjusted her course toward a collective cruiser. Her ship was dying around her, but she had enough power for one final action. This is for my children, she said into her communication device, knowing her family might hear the recording someday. This is for everyone who will not see tomorrow. Remember us. The Santiago hit the cruiser's command section, and another piece of the armada died. Admiral Zenther realized he was facing something he had never encountered before. These humans were not fighting to win. They were fighting to make the victory as costly as possible. Every ship they destroyed cost them hundreds of lives. But it also cost the collective a vessel that took years to build and crew members with decades of training. Admiral, we have lost 47 ships, the tactical officer reported. Shields are failing on multiple vessels. The humans have also deployed some kind of orbital weapons platform. They are firing projectiles at relativistic speeds. Zenther looked at the display and saw human satellites launching what appeared to be simple metal rods toward his fleet. But at near light speed, even simple metal became devastating. The projectiles punched through shields and hulls like they were paper. This is insane, Zenther said. They are losing 10 ships for every one of ours they destroy. This is suicide. But the humans kept coming. Every available vessel, military or civilian, armed or improvised, threw itself at the armada, and mixed in with the desperate ramming attacks were moments of unexpected brilliance. Human fighters using the debris field for cover, mining lasers repurposed as cutting tools, slicing through weak points in collective ships. Even simple chemical explosives, primitive by galactic standards, proving effective when detonated at close range. The withdrawal after 6 hours of brutal combat. Admiral Zenther made a decision that would haunt him forever. All ships withdraw to the outer system. Regroup and reassess. His tactical officer stared at him. Admiral, we still outnumber them. We can still win. At what cost? Zenther gestured at the display showing his battered fleet. We have lost 98 ships. 98 against an enemy that should not have been able to destroy even one. If we continue, we might destroy them completely, but we will lose half our fleet doing it. And for what? To conquer a world that will never stop fighting? As the armada retreated, human ships did not pursue. They could not. Of the 300 vessels Earth had launched, only 42 remained functional. Thousands of humans had died in the battle, but they had done the impossible. They had forced a superior enemy to retreat. On Earth, celebrations erupted in every city, not because humanity had won, but because they had survived. They had faced annihilation and refused to submit. General Chun stood in the command center, exhausted beyond words. Get me casualty figures. Get me damage assessments. And get me every engineer and scientist we have. They will come back, and next time we need to be ready. The return to Theron, when the remains of the Second Armada limped back to Theron 3 weeks later, General Krax Volrin was waiting at the command tower. He watched the battered ships dock, seeing the scars of human determination written across their hulls. Admiral Zenther walked into the War Council chamber, his armor dented and scorched. Supreme Commander Yalvex sat in her chair, ancient face unreadable. Report, she commanded. We engaged the human forces as ordered, Zenther said slowly. We destroyed approximately 87% of their space-capable vessels. We inflicted massive casualties on their defensive forces. By every conventional measure, we achieved victory. And yet you retreated. Yes. Zenther looked around the chamber at the assembled commanders. Because those humans fought like nothing I have ever seen. They used their own ships as weapons. They sacrificed hundreds of lives without hesitation. They turned civilian vessels into warships and launched attacks that should have been impossible. And when we calculated the cost of complete victory, we realized it would have destroyed our fleet. Silence filled the chamber. Finally, Commander Draxus spoke. How many ships did we lose? 98 destroyed completely. Another 43 damaged beyond immediate repair. Over 12,000 crew members killed. The numbers hung in the air like accusations. In 3,000 years of conquest, the collective had never lost nearly a third of an armada to a single primitive world. Supreme Commander, Yalvex turned her ancient eyes to General Crax Volrin. It seems you were correct, General. The humans are indeed dangerous. Crax stepped forward. They are more than dangerous. They are a species that has built their entire civilization on the principle of never surrendering. We can defeat them with enough force, but it will cost us more than any conquest in our history. And even if we break them, they will rebuild. They will adapt. They will find ways to hurt us that we cannot imagine. Then what do you propose? Yalvex asked. Leave them alone. Mark their system as restricted space. Let them develop at their own pace. Because if we continue this war, one of two things will happen. Either we will spend decades and countless lives trying to subjugate them, or we will have to exterminate them completely. And if we choose extermination, we will prove that we are the monsters they believe us to be. The War Council debated for hours. Some argued for immediate retaliation, for sending the entire collective fleet to crush Earth once and for all. Others advocated for a different approach, for opening diplomatic channels, for recognizing that humanity might be more valuable as allies than as subjects. In the end, Yalvex made her decision. We will quarantine the human system. No collective vessels will enter their space without explicit permission from this council. We will observe them from a distance. And if they develop technology that threatens us, we will reconsider. It was not peace, but it was not war. It was recognition that some battles are too costly to fight, even if victory is possible. The new reality General Crax Volrin stood in his quarters that night, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, on a small blue planet, humans were rebuilding their defenses and preparing for the next battle. They had learned that the galaxy was not empty, that other civilizations existed, and that not all of them were friendly. But they had also learned something else. They had faced impossible odds and survived. They had fought the most powerful military force in the galaxy and forced it to retreat. And that knowledge would change them forever. Crax thought about the human general who had defied Admiral Zenther. The cold determination in her eyes. The absolute refusal to surrender. He had seen that look before in warriors from 100 different worlds, but never quite like this. For humans, that determination was not something learned through training. It was something fundamental to what they were. The galaxy would never be the same. Other species would hear about the battle. They would learn that the collective's power was not absolute. They would wonder if they too could resist, could fight, could survive. And humanity, isolated but unbowed, would continue to grow stronger. They would study the wreckage of the collective ships they had destroyed. They would reverse engineer alien technology. They would build new weapons and new defenses. And when they finally developed faster than light travel, they would emerge into the galaxy as a force that could not be ignored. KRX had tried to warn the Council. They had not listened until it was too late. Now the galaxy would have to live with the consequences. Humanity had announced their presence with blood and fire. They had declared to the stars that they would not go quietly into extinction. In his hearts, Crax felt something he had not experienced in decades. Not fear exactly, but a profound respect for an enemy that refused to be conquered. The humans had a saying he had learned during his observation mission. We will not go gentle into that good night. They had proven those words true, and the galaxy would remember. The end.